With Jarren Duran likely out the door, what exactly will the Boston Red Sox outfield look like in 2026?
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby Maljanian, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I'm here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast feed. And want to know the best part? It's free. So make sure that you tune in because Locked On is here for you every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. I'll tell you a little bit more about Gametime later on in today's show, but throughout the course of this week, I'm breaking down every position group for the Boston Red Sox, analyzing who may be here in 2026 and who may not be. And the outfield is what I'm going to be focusing on today. And the Red Sox have an interesting situation going on in the outfield right now because they have a bit of a log jam in that position group right now, primarily due to the emergence of Roman Anthony and him being called up during the season in 2025 to take up a spot in that outfield. And it left the Red Sox with a tough spot of who was going to play where. And then Roman Anthony ended up missing the last month or so of the season with an injury. So then the Red Sox were able to work everybody in. But when everybody was healthy and they had Ceddanne Rafaela, Jarren Duran, Wilyer Abreu, and Roman Anthony all deserving of being in the lineup every day, at that point, then they had to rotate people through the DH role. So Masataka Yoshida was kind of the odd man out, even though going into this season, the expectation was that he was primarily going to DH. So then it left the Red Sox in an even more challenging spot. So because of the situation that they are in right now, it's inevitable that one of these outfielders is going to be traded, with the most likely option right now being Jarren Duran. Now, here's why Jarren Duran is likely to be traded. Although he had a bit of a down year this season, he did have some upside in value still that he provides in terms of his versatility as a baseball player. So when the Red Sox look at their outfield depth, the outfield is arguably their most talented position group as a whole. Lots of great defense in that group and some very productive bats. Jarren Duran had a really good season in 2024 where he truly broke out and was an MVP candidate, even went as far as winning All-Star Game MVP. But his value is down because he took a decline offensively in 2025. He hit 256 with a 332 on base percentage and 442 slugging. So that was a lot less productive overall than what he produced during the 2024 season. But he still hit 16 home runs, 41 doubles, and an American League leading 13 triples, while also successfully stealing 24 bases across 30 attempts. Now, that 13 triples that leads the AL is notable because his speed alone is something that could intrigue a lot of teams. He has a lot of value in terms of his ability to steal bases and turn triples into potentially inside the park home runs, turn singles into doubles, doubles into triples, etc. You get the drift. What could typically be a single for a lot of players usually ends up being a double for Duran because he's fast enough. And a lot of teams would want and could use that in their lineup. You want that speed. And if the Red Sox were to part ways with Jarren Duran, although they would lose that, they still have speed in the lineup. Ceddanne Rafaela is fast. Trevor Story broke a stolen base record within the American League in 2025. So it's not like you're losing your speed altogether, but it would definitely be a little bit of a downside to lose Jarren Duran's speed. While he was a bit uneven in 2025, he can still wreak havoc in the lineup. And can make some spectacular grabs in the outfield because we saw some really beautiful plays from him defensively. He's also set to make just $8 million in 2026 and is under team control through 2028. So there should be a lot of interest in him from any outfield needy teams if the Red Sox make him available. So it's a situation where the Red Sox can afford to trade him because, yes, while they'd be losing his speed, there are better bats in their outfield right now. And defensively, they have Wilyer Abreu, who's a Gold Glove finalist for the second year in a row and won it in 2024. And then you have Ceddanne Rafaela, who is probably the best defensive center fielder in all of baseball. So out of those three, Duran probably takes the cake as the weakest defensively, but he's not even bad defensively. He's still really good defensively. It just goes to show how good the Red Sox outfield is. They're obviously not going to trade Roman Anthony, the new face of the franchise, the guy who they are going to continue to build around. So it's natural and inevitable that it feels like Jarren Duran would be the outfielder that they ship because they do value defense. And because they value defense, that's why they extended Ceddanne Rafaela and gave him a really hefty contract to be able to keep his defense in the outfield because they just value that so much. So if they feel like defense is the most important asset to the outfield as a whole, then they could flip Jarren Duran. And also, he provides a lot of value from a trading standpoint just because he can do so much. He can cover a lot of ground in the outfield with his speed. He's athletic. And he can hit well enough to slot into a lineup for a team that really needs a defensive and versatile outfielder who can also hit well enough. So if they want to be able to acquire pitching this offseason, which they do have to do, trading Jarren Duran could absolutely help with that. If they include him in a bigger package, it could potentially net the Red Sox the number 2 starter that they desperately need behind Garrett Crochet. And I've said this so many times. If they package Jarren Duran in with a couple other key players / prospects, that could be a really nice package that they are giving to another team in order to get their biggest need, which is that true number 2 starter. So also because of the outfield depth, it wouldn't really set them back or feel like they need to replace him if they do trade him because they're simply just trading away a player to actually clear space for other players that play that position or in the outfield group in general. Now, veteran outfielder Rob Refsnyder is a free agent this offseason. I'll be talking about him a little bit later on today's show, but he could be brought back as a depth piece because he is a left-handed pitching killer. And he's always in the lineup for the Red Sox when they go against lefties, so I'm sure they will try to retain him. The Red Sox could potentially keep Jarren Duran also so that the team's outfield depth is intact, especially considering the fact that Roman Anthony did miss the end of the season with that oblique strain, and Wilyer Abreu also had 2 different stints on the IL during the season. If the Red Sox can somehow find a trade partner for Masataka Yoshida instead, it would open the DH spot for either Duran or Anthony, and then you could keep a consistent outfield of a mix of the other 3 that are not DHing. But the problem with that is that it would be hard for teams to commit to wanting to acquire Yoshida, especially with how expensive his contract is and the fact that he hasn't exactly been as productive overall as the Red Sox would like him to be. He's a liability defensively, and his offense, while it was red hot at the end of the season this year, you can't necessarily bank on that carrying over into 2026. So it'd be hard to find a fair trade partner or a team willing to take that on unless the Red Sox volunteer to pay for a lot of his contract, which I don't think they'd really want to do because if they do acquire a number 2 starting pitcher this offseason, I'm sure they would look to extend that pitcher. And they also probably want to bring Alex Bregman back. So I can't see them wanting to offer to continue to pay Yoshida's salary. If they were to trade him, the intention would probably also be to get that contract off the books, which could create a difficult situation. So the most feasible and realistic option seems to be that the Red Sox do deal Jarren Duran, which would create an opening in left field for Roman Anthony after he spent most of his time in right field during his rookie campaign. So that could help too, because Roman is more naturally fit in left field. There just wasn't really an opportunity for him to play there. So that would help solve some of these issues in terms of formation and lineup that the Red Sox are having here with the outfield. But it's a good problem to have because it's depth, and the Red Sox can use it to their advantage to be able to acquire a position of major need, which is that number 2 starting pitcher. And outside of dealing away some of the top prospects in the system who are not named Roman Anthony, trading Jarren Duran could help the Red Sox to avoid completely depleting their farm system for pitching, because they did trade some key pieces from their farm system to get Garrett Crochet in the first place. So in order to avoid having it be a situation like that, they would still have to give away some prospects, but if they have Jarren Duran be the centerpiece of a trade, it would diminish the number of top prospects that they would have to give up for a number 2 starter. So it makes a lot of sense and likely would happen this offseason. But coming up, who else got a taste of the Boston Red Sox outfield in 2025, and what could their fates be with this team? I was looking for last minute tickets the other day to a Bruins game, and I immediately pulled up Gametime. Why? Because it's the best ticketing vendor for tickets, truly. It's way cheaper than other ticketing vendors, and it also tells you the straight up price with no hidden fees. So you don't be surprised when you check out, because the price you see is the price you pay, and it shows the view from your seat, so you are reassured that it's not obstructed. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. The outfield is a very interesting position group for the Boston Red Sox. It's arguably the most talented and deepest position group that this Red Sox team had. And it became to a point where a lot of people thought they were going to trade one of those outfielders at the trade deadline. They made the decision not to. They wanted the reassurance in case somebody got hurt. But also, Craig Breslow seemingly didn't want to break up the team chemistry that outfield had going for them. So therefore, he made the decision to keep everybody intact. But now that the season's over and it's the off season, it's looking likely now that one of those outfielders will be traded. Now, what exactly did the depth chart look like for the Boston Red Sox in terms of the outfield? Now, I've already discussed Jarren Duran, who is likely to be on the move this offseason. So that leaves an outfield formation in which you would have Roman Anthony, who was previously the number 1 prospect in all of baseball for this Boston Red Sox team. He provided a true spark for this offense that the Red Sox needed. After they traded Rafael Devers, the Red Sox were having trouble finding their stride again on offense. And then as soon as Roman Anthony got called up, he was called up due to an injury to Wilyer Abreu. Then things started all of a sudden to click again for this Red Sox offense. They were hitting, they were winning games, and it almost felt like Roman Anthony was the piece that they needed. He came and got called up and provided this true spark out of the leadoff spot that the Red Sox really needed. And for the longest time, Jarren Duran was the Red Sox leadoff hitter. But Roman Anthony had been hitting leadoff for his entire career, all the way up until he got called up to the Boston Red Sox. So they decided, why not continue to have him hit leadoff? He can be our leadoff hitter moving forward. So the Red Sox decided to make Roman the leadoff hitter. And ever since then, really good things were happening for the Boston Red Sox. And then Roman got hurt at the end of the season and missed the last month or so. And then all of a sudden, the Red Sox offense was struggling to score runs again. So it was a weird, what felt like not coincidental pattern of as soon as Roman gets called up, things start to get better for this Red Sox team. And then as soon as he goes on the IL, then things kind of fall apart again. So it's very clear that Roman Anthony is a key piece to this Red Sox team. They signed him to a very hefty extension that's actually going to look like a bargain down the road. So he is here to stay in Boston for years to come now. And he is the heart of this Red Sox team. He is the guy that they primarily want to continue to build this team around. So having Roman Anthony in that outfield for years to come is likely. Then there's Ceddanne Rafaela in center field, who is the best defensive center fielder in the sport. It's basically a secondary version of Jackie Bradley Jr. It finally feels like the Red Sox have a defender in center field again who has that strong ability with the strong arm and just very, very strong defensive skills. And that's really important, especially at a place like Fenway Park. You need to be able to play that center field very efficiently, and not everybody can do it, but Ceddanne Rafaela can do it. So the biggest thing now is if they keep Ceddanne Rafaela in center field consistently, are they able to get his bat to align with that? Because by every aspect of the word, he should be an everyday center fielder. No doubt about it. But the question with him is, does his bat deserve to be in the lineup every day? Because he does struggle offensively and he's incredibly streaky and incredibly inconsistent. In the first half of the season for the Red Sox, he was hitting very well. Then he dropped drastically in the second half, and it's because he just hasn't shown that ability to be consistent at the plate yet. I feel like there's a lot of promise for him going into 2026. I think he's going to have a very strong season at the plate because now he's already started to improve. He made some adjustments from 2024 that I expect him to carry over into the 2026 season. And I think he is going to very much be a much better hitter all around, maintaining that at a consistently high level for the season in 2026. If that happens, then there's no doubt that the Red Sox would be justified in him being in the lineup every single day. Then there's Wilyer Abreu, who won the Gold Glove for right field in 2024 and is a finalist again in that department for the 2025 season. You want his defense out there too. The offense he provides was a very high level of productivity. He did miss some time this season because he was placed on the injured list twice. So that was really unfortunate and detrimental for the Red Sox offense. But when he was out there, his bat was making a massive difference to this team. Now, the thing with Wilyer Abreu that the Red Sox are going to have to consider and keep in mind is that injury history. This is the second season in a row in which he's missed a good amount of time due to injury. I mean, granted, he experienced a fluke injury slipping on the dugout stairs, so that's obviously something that you don't see every day. But generally, he hasn't shown a true ability yet to be able to stay healthy throughout the course of the whole season. And when he finally came back from his injury late in the season in 2025, he really wasn't able to fully get back into the groove of things offensively. And that really took a negative impact on the Red Sox lineup. But when he is at his best, his bat is definitely much needed in that Red Sox lineup. So you look at what they have in him, and that's a guy you kind of want to keep around. So it goes back again to the Jarren Duran situation of if you're giving and taking, if the Red Sox are prioritizing defense, he likely is going to be the guy to go. Then you have Masataka Yoshida, who is such a wild card in this whole thing because the Red Sox just haven't really figured out what they're going to do with him. Once they traded Rafael Devers, it made room for Masa. And early on in the season in 2025, it wasn't really an issue because he was hurt, so he wasn't able to play. So him DHing wasn't a factor, and Devers was DHing at that point, and they didn't even really need to think about it. But then after they traded Devers, they kind of expedited the process of getting Yoshida back from his injury. I actually spoke with him when he was rehabbing with the AAA Worcester Red Sox. And at that time, he was a little bit frustrated because he just wanted to get back to the major league team. And he had explained that there wasn't really a timetable. He was just kind of taking it day by day. But at that point, the Red Sox were definitely trying to get him back sooner rather than later. And then he kind of became the full-time DH again until Roman Anthony got called up. So there's all these different factors that have impacted Masataka Yoshida's role on this team. And the issue became his defense primarily because in 2024, he was playing defense in the outfield. And he wasn't really showing a strong ability to be effective on defense. So then the Red Sox didn't really have a choice but to reevaluate that situation and say, all right, so he's not really fitting in the outfield, so maybe we should just have him DH. So the plan was for him to be the full-time DH, and that was what they were going with for a while. And then when Roman Anthony got called up and they were trying to find room for everybody in the lineup, then Masa's role became a little bit diminished. Now, going into 2026, I definitely cannot see the Red Sox choosing to make Yoshida an everyday outfielder unless they have no choice and somebody faces a serious injury. But other than that, there's no reason for them to. And if they have an outfield setup generally that consists of Wilyer Abreu, Roman Anthony, and Ceddanne Rafaela, then Yoshida likely will be the DH, assuming that Duran does in fact get moved. But Yoshida is technically considered both a designated hitter and an outfielder. He's just not good enough defensively to where the Red Sox could continue to play him out there and give him regular reps in the outfield, even though he has expressed that he wants to play in the outfield. They have the depth, again, to not have to put him there. So what does his role look like in 2026? That definitely is all dependent on how the rest of their outfield aligns. If Jarren Duran gets traded, then Masa likely will be the everyday DH because they don't really need Roman Anthony to DH because he would then be in the outfield every day. If they decide to keep Jarren Duran for whatever reason and they rotate the DH role, then Masa would be in a limited role because he would be on the DH schedule but wouldn't be playing every single day. So he's a wild card in this whole situation for that reason, because there might not necessarily be an everyday role for him, which is something the Red Sox are going to have to navigate moving forward. And coming up, another wild card in this situation is Rob Refsnyder. Is he even going to come back to the Red Sox? Don't forget that you can subscribe to Locked On Red Sox on any podcast platform, including YouTube. I am here Monday through Friday discussing all things going on with this team. And if you want to connect with more Red Sox and baseball fans in general, be sure to follow the show on Twitter at LO_Red Sox. And you can have interactions with a lot of different people who root for the same team as you do. Be sure to check out our other MLB shows across the network, including Locked On MLB with Paul Sullivan, aka Sully, and also Locked On MLB Game Night, which is here every single night for every game all the way up until a World Series champion is crowned. You can get local analysis on a national scale. So make sure you subscribe to that show on the Locked On MLB YouTube channel or any other podcast platform, because our local experts here have you covered all the way up until the World Series wraps up. While the Red Sox look to be in the World Series conversation for 2026, that is going to involve them making big moves to improve this team. And one of those big moves that they are going to have to make is to go and acquire a number 2 starting pitcher. And in order for them to make that happen and be able to acquire a true number 2 starter, they are going to have to probably make some trades. And an outfielder likely is going to be involved in that trade. But that outfielder is not going to be Rob Refsnyder because he is technically a free agent now. He had signed a 2-year deal with the Red Sox at the end of the 2023 season that has now expired, and he is going to be exploring free agency. I talked about Rob on the show recently and why the Red Sox should bring him back. For one, he's a lefty killer, so he kind of alternates with Wilyer Abreu in the lineup. So if there's a left-handed starter on the mound for the opposing team, the Red Sox put Rob in the lineup a lot because his bat is deadly against lefties. So I'm bringing him back for that reason alone, because if the Red Sox lose Rob Refsnyder, they really don't have a lot of lefty killers in this lineup, and the Red Sox as a whole really struggle against left-handed pitching. So having Rob Refsnyder out there creates some versatility in that lineup and can help them to attack left-handed pitching in a more effective way. Another reason for it is because it would allow a break for some of the other outfielders, because chances are they are going to want Abreu, Rafaela, and Anthony in the outfield pretty much every day. Again, assuming that Jarren Duran gets traded this offseason. But in order to make sure those guys stay healthy and stay intact, they might want to allow them to have a bit of a break every once in a while. So therefore, they could stick Refsnyder in the outfield on some of those days, allowing some of those other guys to get rest so they're not playing all 162 games, which could especially help a guy like Roman Anthony, who would be coming into the season in 2026, coming immediately off of an injury. So without really knowing how he's going to reacclimate himself, that could be a huge help as well. So there are a lot of reasons why they should bring Refsnyder back, but if they don't, it really doesn't create any drastic changes in terms of positioning or the lineup. It just would be harmful and detrimental for the Red Sox to lose his bat against a left-handed starting pitching, because he's just so good against lefties. And even against left-handed relievers, if they want to bring him in later in the game as a pinch hitter, that could be beneficial if it's a close game and there's base traffic and the Red Sox really need somebody to come through against a lefty. Maybe the other team brought in a lefty to try to record the last out of that inning, and Alex Cora can rebuttal that by bringing in Refsnyder. If you don't have him as that weapon, then that's tough if you're the Red Sox. And also, against relievers in general, if he's in the lineup already that day and you keep giving him at bats and a lefty reliever comes in, it's just beneficial to have a guy like that. Plus, he's a veteran leader in a clubhouse full of a lot of young players. Having a guy like Rob in there would allow the Red Sox to feel like they have a guy in there who could help lead some of the younger players in this clubhouse who are still getting acclimated to Major League Baseball. So there are a lot of reasons to bring back Rob Refsnyder, and I really hope that they do. But he's another outfielder on the Red Sox outfield depth chart. Now, there are a couple other players in here who are wild cards, Nate Eaton and Nick Sogard, who both can technically play in the outfield and in the infield. Nick Sogard can play in either corner infield spot in left field or right field, whereas Nate Eaton has experience in both right and center field. Now, both of them kind of spent a lot of time in AAA in 2025 and then got called up due to injury, and they were both on the postseason roster. Nick Sogard came up with some big hits for the Red Sox late in the season. Over the course of the last month, and even in that wild card series against the Yankees, he was a guy the Red Sox could really rely on, and he was playing without that weight on his shoulders of having to carry the team, and it showed. He was playing baseball really freely, and he was coming up with the big hits in a playoff chase late and also in the playoffs, allowing the Red Sox to win game one against the Yankees of that wild card series. He was one of the big reasons why they were able to win that game. So I really like Sogard, and I like the flexibility that he has. But with where the Red Sox are at right now and the depth on the team, the chances of him starting the season in the majors is slim. He'll probably start the season in AAA. And I don't know that he quite has enough value for the Red Sox to pair him into a trade. He obviously couldn't be the centerpiece of a trade. He'd have to be one of the peripheral pieces that the Red Sox add in if there's a team that likes the upside with him. But I really liked what I saw from Nick Sogard. He's a really hard worker, and he was able to be a big piece down the stretch there for this Red Sox team. But because he can play both in the infield and in the outfield, it's a good option to have for if somebody gets hurt partway through the season and somebody needs to get called up to fill in that role. And Nate Eaton also is the same way, a versatile player who can play in the infield and in the outfield. The Red Sox played around with putting him in both of those roles over the course of the 2025 season. He also spent a majority of the season in AAA, but was called up due to injury, and his speed was what got him to where he was. He was used as a pinch runner for the Red Sox a lot. He struggled offensively to really get anything going, but as I mentioned earlier, with speed being a factor, Nate Eaton is a guy who can provide that speed off the bench. He's not going to be somebody who's going to be an everyday player for the Red Sox. He ended up seemingly being that at the very end of the 2025 season, and I think that really truly is primarily because the Red Sox had injuries, so they didn't really have a choice otherwise. But to have him be an everyday player towards the end. But ultimately, he'll probably also be starting the season in AAA, but the Red Sox really like the ability level of him where he can get called up and be used as a threat primarily on the base paths to be able to put pressure on opposing pitchers and maybe try to steal bases late in games to be able to try to get a game tying run or the go ahead run home late in a close game. So there are aspects of both of those two players that they provide that are valuable, but they're just not everyday players in the majors, and that's fine. They could be weapons that the Red Sox could call up at some point to be used off the bench, but likely will be in Worcester to start the season. So it's really interesting, and it's going to be fascinating to see how the Red Sox outfield lines up going into 2026, but there's definitely a really high chance that one of those players that I've talked about is not in a Red Sox uniform because they got traded. And my money 100% is on Jarren Duran. So we'll have to see how that all goes. But thank you so much for tuning into Locked On Red Sox and making it your first listen of every single day. I truly appreciate you checking it out. And as I always say, keep the faith, go Red Sox, and I'll catch you on the flip side.